try to get the music down and mic his microphone up, okay?
I'm checking with Aaron about those later. Yeah. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Cool, cool. Yeah, so it's really great to be here. The music was so good. I was going to ask that maybe we should just cancel the event and, dance. There's food, there's drink, But yeah, it's really great to be here in Nairobi with the rest of the Facebook team. This week is really a great week for us. We like to think of it as a week where we're celebrating tech in Africa, right? So, it's been quite action-packed. Yesterday, we were out at the iHub. We hung out with women in tech. There was a great event with the developer circles. Some of them have been here all week, going through some training. It's just been awesome. And tomorrow will be, I think, the climax of everything with the TechCrunch Battlefield event. So it's really great to be here. My name is Chukwemeka Fibo. I lead platform partnerships in the Middle East and Africa at Facebook, and really privileged to have all of you here joining us. Now, for like the last decade or so, Facebook has been really focused on driving its mission, which was making the world more connected, open and connected. But I guess you could say we took a look around, at the society around, and we decided that we have an even greater responsibility, right? That we need to do more, not just to connect the world, but to bring the world closer together. Another thing we realized that if we've defined this new mission for ourselves, obviously it means that we can't do this on our own, right? And this is why we decided, to ramp up even more on the way we've been investing in individuals and, basically helping them form communities to drive this mission. So today, we're going to be sharing with you a few of our tools, APIs, and, products that help businesses like you grow your business and build great products. And we hope that together, in this community of builders, we should be able to make progress in fulfilling this mission. I'm going to be talking about a number of things. You're going to hear a lot of stuff in this my short speech, but afterwards there are going to be deep dives, and we'll provide booths for you where you can actually engage with some of our engineers and talk more about this. You can even present your products and so on. So let's step back a little bit. Back in 2007, when Facebook decided to enable its community of builders around the Facebook app at the time, we launched the Facebook platform. And when you hear me say Facebook platform, I'm basically referring to a collection of tools and products and services that we have created to enable tech-dependent businesses like yours to leverage Facebook for business growth. So when we launched it at that time, there were about 24 million people on Facebook. And today, that number has grown a lot to 2 billion. That was the last count. And obviously, a lot of these 2 billion, they access the platform on mobile as well as through other channels. And, it's become obvious that in today's world, it's way more complex than 2007. So people access services through different channels, different platforms, and so on. So if you're looking to grow your business now, there are a lot more challenges that you're going to be facing. But we at Facebook believe that at every stage of the product development life cycle, we have something that we feel can support you to do more at every stage. So talking about product development life cycle and growing your business accordingly, to better understand this, let's break it down into stages or different bits. At Facebook, we feel that we understand these stages. I'm going to talk about them. It's not one size fits all. Every business is different, right? Every business has a way it operates. But I feel that this framework should give us a way to think through all the things that you're considering as you're developing your business and the way that we can support you in doing that. The first touch point that people usually think about, is how do you get your first customers, or how do you get customers? You can call it customer acquisition or customer onboarding. This is basically how do you turn somebody from just a random visitor to a customer that you know and can sell to or can provide services to. And the main thing you want to think about at this stage is a seamless onboarding process for that user. Now, when you figured out how the procedure for getting people into your system, the next question you want to ask or answer is how do you get more of the same kind of people? So in other words, we're talking about growth or scaling, right? Then if you've managed to scale this hurdle or you figured it out to an extent, you're now asking yourself, how do you keep these users or these customers engaged? We all know that the best business is repeat business. So basically, how do you keep people coming back to your service or to your app? Then at that point, after you've thought about engagement, you come to what I call the least important aspect, which is monetization. Every business, if you don't want to die of what I call financial asphyxiation, then you need to think about revenue or money, right? And generally, the rule of thumb is the more revenue streams you have, the better. And then the thing is, at every stage I've mentioned, it's very important for us to be able to understand and measure the user behavior at every stage. Doing this enables us to be able to iterate and tweak this to be able to achieve the best result and continue growing. So we're going to delve a bit deeper into this, starting with the first one, which is the first touch point, onboarding users. So like I said, this is like the first contact you have with your customer, if you will, even before they become customers. So, I mean, somebody gets to hear about your website or your app and they access it. At that point, they are not yet customers. They become your users or your customers when you have, quote unquote, registered them, right? And we all know that this is a very big friction point for many services. At Facebook, we have a number of products that we believe will help you at this stage. The first of them, I'm sure many of you have heard about, is Facebook Login, right? So Facebook Login, to put it simply, provides what we like to think of as a two-tap process for getting your users onboarded and logged into your service, right? We also created another product called Account Kit that we launched last year. And what this basically does, it provides a phone number login or email login without need for passwords for your service. And as you can imagine, I can see people nodding in agreement. This is one region where such a service would be very useful. And the great thing is that you can actually combine these options together, as you can see on the screenshot, to offer your users more options to get logged in and registered on your service. Now, the next question, like I said, you've removed the barriers to entry. You have a smooth registration process, so you want to get as many people as possible into that process. So now you're talking about growth or building awareness. So I'll talk about one or two things that we have in this area. Now, as many of us know, some of the best ways of driving business is through word of mouth or referrals, right? That usually works when you get a recommendation from somebody you know and trust. And that's exactly what the sharing products that we have at Facebook help you do, right? They allow your users or your customers to share content from your service or app or site to their friends so that they can have access to it. And based on the fact that they trust you or whoever is sharing that stuff, then the very least they can do is take a look at the service itself to learn more and hopefully then become users. But then if you're looking for a more heavy-duty method of getting users, then you want to start thinking about ads. So for example, the app ads that allow you to get your service in front of the right people, basically, right? Using the great user targeting that we have at Facebook. So, we'll run through it again. You've removed barriers to entry. You now have a number of users, and they are on your service. They've accessed your service and they are in. But then, at that point, you're thinking about retention and engagement. A common metric for measuring this around is monthly active users, right? So that's people who use your service at least once every month. One key way to do this, and one thing that we have created to help you at this point is the Messenger platform. The great thing about the Messenger platform is that it enables you to engage and re-engage with your customers even when they are not on your website or using your app, right? So it's a great way for you to create that engagement, keep them coming back, keep your service top of mind for them at every point in time. And again, we're going to be digging deep into these and some of the things I talked about previously. I think Ziad, is going to be talking more about the Messenger platform in a few minutes. So, now we have users, they are coming back, we have repeat business. So how do we monetize this engagement? We created a product called the Audience Network that gives you the ability to monetize engagement on your app, right? Audience Network gives you a great opportunity to deliver ads to people, very relevant ads in native format that has a great user experience to people on your app while they're engaged. And it's very flexible. You can create different formats. You can have display ads, you can have video ads, and other very native formats in your app. Really great, and again, we're going to be digging deep into this with Fuad later on. So, again, thinking about the customer journey, all the stages I mentioned, like I said, it's very important to not just understand, but to be able to measure the behavior of users at every stage so that you know where you're going wrong and know if there are things you need to improve or if there are things you can capitalize on to either grow engagement, grow user acquisition, improve monetization, and so on and so forth. And that's why, for me, this is really, really a great product that everybody is relevant to everybody. So I feel some of the other stages, depending on where your business is, you may not feel is relevant to you, but this is something that I feel is relevant to everybody in this room, and that's Facebook analytics. Like the slide says, if you cannot measure it, it does not exist, right? Facebook analytics enables you to measure user behavior across different channels and platforms. I'll paint a very simple picture for you. They're going to be digging deep into this, but just consider this scenario. So maybe you have a Facebook page, right? So you do a post about a product or a service that you're offering. Somebody likes the post, clicks on the link on the page, goes to your website, browses around, downloads your app, logs in, installs and logs into your app, browses through a catalog on the app, adds some items to the cart, and then goes home later on that evening and checks out on their laptop and desktop. This is a very typical e-commerce flow, for example. So the question is, how do you understand what is happening across all these devices, across all these channels and platforms? Facebook Analytics allows you to do that. And so this is something you should definitely pay attention to when we do the deep dive in a few minutes. Now, changing gears a little bit, practically everybody in this audience has either some technical team or developers working for them or helping them build products. And we all want to achieve something as a business, which is we want to achieve the most with the least, right? We want to optimize the resources we have to achieve the most. And with this in mind, that's why we created or we open sourced these two projects I'm talking about. That's React and React Native. Now, React was built, the simplest way to put it is that it was built for people who are working on, very large scale apps with data that changes frequently, right? So it helps you to be able to build such applications very easily. React Native, on the other hand, is based on React and JavaScript, and it allows you to create experiences on different platforms, for example, iOS and Android, with the same developer experience. So like the same dev team can easily or relatively easily build apps for these two platforms. And again, we have a deep dive on this. So just permit me to quickly talk about these two programs that also help you in the product development lifecycle. At least we believe they do. First of them is Developer Circles, which is, the simplest way to put it, is a community of people who are interested in product development right? They come together to learn, teach, collaborate with each other, and it's very localized. So these are people from your neighborhood, practically, right? Whether you're a student who wants to learn how to code or an advanced developer who is looking for how best to build the next product. I think in developer circles you'll find a home. You see some people in the blue shirts. These are leads from different developer circles across Africa, and they are, yeah, please. And so feel free to talk to them after this to learn more about the program. We're very grateful they could join us for this week, the events this week in Nairobi. FB Start is our flagship program for early stage startups, where we support them with a number of things like free access to tools that typically you pay a lot of money for. It could be Facebook ad credits, Amazon cloud credits, MailChimp, SurveyMonkey, all those tools that every early stage startup needs to grow. We also give them access to a community of like-minded startups from around the world. So I'll summarize by saying that, we see ourselves as a company of builders, and so we want to empower a community of builders. We want all of us to work together to empower a community of builders. And, like I said, we have the tools that can help you at every stage of your product development cycle. So please sit tight as we walk through some of these products in details. We're going to talk about Facebook login, account kit, ads, messenger analytics, and so on. We're going to follow the customer journey just like I described it and see exactly how our platform can help you continue to grow your business. So at this point, join me in welcoming my colleague Brad, who's going to talk about how we bring down the barriers to entry to our app or service. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, Emeka. As he said, I'm Brad. I'm a partner engineer at Facebook, and that means my day-to-day job is helping other developers get the most out of their integrations with the Facebook developer platform. Today I'm going to talk to you most specifically about Facebook login and account kit, about those first interactions that someone might have with your business. Now, all of us here, besides being developers, besides being business owners, we're also consumers. So think about, for a moment, the first interaction you have with a lot of the apps and businesses that you touch. And very often, this will be the sign-in page. This is one of the first touch points that anyone encounters on the site. And it's a simple enough idea, sign up and come in. But it turns out there's a lot of details to think about in order to make that decision easy for your prospective customer. And so what does this mean for your business? Well, every business owner is thinking about how to make it easy for the customer to come in and engage, how to make a good first impression that lasts, and very importantly, how to provide a good experience that keeps them coming back for more good experiences. So at Facebook, we set out to study these questions. We do a lot of user research that we use to inform our products to try to get the right balance of ease and convenience and value for both you, the business owner or developer, and your customer. Before I dig deep into the particular products, Facebook login and account kit, I want to share with you some of the things we've learned, some of the user research we've done, and some of the insights that drive how we shape these products. So, results from our user surveys consistently show that convenience is of top importance to users. Besides that, they also care about controlling the data they share, and they want to have some idea that their data is secure. They want to trust that the data they share is being handled securely and responsibly. Looking at that top concern of convenience, the number one obstacle to convenience in the consumer's mind that we see is the password. People are not at all keen on passwords. How many of you have forgotten a password to a website or app in the past year? Okay, me too. How does it feel when you do that? Like, I get frustrated, I get annoyed, because this is a site I've been to before and I've engaged with before, and now I'm back and I have a purpose, and I'm stopped short because I've forgotten the password or I've forgotten the answer to a security question, and now I have to go through whatever the process is to retrieve or reset that password. And we hear the same thing from from customers time and time again. It's a pain. And requiring a password also places a burden on the business too, because now you have to put systems in place to securely transfer and store those passwords. And if there's any failure in those systems, then that's a problem for you in terms of user trust, in terms of liability for your business. So passwords are an issue for both convenience and security. So if convenience is top of mind for your customers and passwords are what they don't want, what on the positive side, what do they want? What interests them in a login solution? What options should you offer them? Well, a 2016 global study by Login Radius shared that almost 93% of consumers prefer a social single sign-on solution to traditional email and password signups. And they prefer this because they often forget passwords, or they often forget the answers to security questions, or they just don't want to go through the flow to retrieve a password. And I think that's worth thinking about and unpacking a little. Think about that scenario of someone who has been to a website or an app before, they cared enough to sign up, they engaged, maybe they did a money transaction, and now they're back. They want to engage again, and they're stopped short because they forgot the password, because they forgot the answer to a security question, or they just don't want to go through the process again. If that happened on your app or website, would you know? Anyways, a thing worth thinking about, I think. So in terms of what they do want, we regularly survey people. We find that Facebook login is regularly in people's top 3 choices for how they want to sign into a site. Email sign-up is also a prominent preference among users. And more, we're finding that phone number matters. This is especially true in places like Asia Pacific and, of course, Africa, where a lot of people are coming online for the first time. And when they see the internet the first time, it's not on a big desktop screen, and it's not on a laptop screen in the cafe. It's on the screen in their pockets. Phone number is becoming more and more important as a sign-up identifier for users in places like this. And so taking all these insights and other things we've learned, we offer Facebook Login and Account Kit. Now, both of these offer you sign-up and authentication. Facebook Login, obviously, is a well-known, popular choice for authenticating people to a site. But for those cases where email or phone number might be appropriate for your customers, we offer Account Kit, which offers passwordless sign-up via both those channels. You can use either or both of these products depending on what you think is right for your customers. Neither one depends on the other. And importantly, Account Kit does not require a Facebook account. So if you're trying to serve people in a market where maybe Facebook penetration is still rising, Account Kit might be an option you'd look at. So, going a little deeper on Facebook Login specifically, it's a quick and easy way for people to create an account using their Facebook credentials, eliminating that burdensome process of creating another username and password. They can get into your site with as little as 2 taps if they're already signed into Facebook on that device. Because it gives them the option to share some data with you, you can offer them a personalized experience that engages them. And we find that people who sign into a site with Facebook Login will tend to have a higher lifetime value than those who don't. And also importantly, Facebook Login is cross-platform. We have SDKs for native development on the major mobile platforms. We have SDKs for web, for things like smart TVs, and even an API if you are working on an embedded device or a console and need to roll your own solution. Facebook Login is familiar. It's the #1 sign-on product in the world. Just anecdotally, in some of our user research, we've even seen that people refer to logging into an app as tapping the blue button. Though what does #1 mean in this case? It means that every month, 350 million people sign into a new app with Facebook Login. And yeah, so it's familiar. It's an option people actually prefer. On the other hand, Account Kit lets people log into your app using only their phone number or email address with no password. The phone number flow in particular works via SMS. So I'm going to give you a quick demo of that now. So here I tap on phone number, I type in my phone number, and then it's going to send me an SMS that has a little one-time use numeric code. I'm going to type that in just to verify that, yes, this is my phone number, this is me. And then you're into the app. And the flow is that quick. And that's the sign-up flow. The sign-in flow is identical. They don't have anything new to remember beyond their phone number. And, by the way, you get a unique identifier for that person every time they sign into your app with the same credentials, so you can see them even if they change devices or move on to a different platform. As of today, we're working with telcos to provide this service in over 200 distinct countries and regions. And the messages delivering the one-time code have been localized to over 50 languages for SMS and over 20 for voice delivery of the codes. Now, I'm going to just go into some of the top-level features of AccountKit very briefly. If you want to go more in depth, as Emeka said, you can see us afterwards. You can also go to developers.facebook.com to see everything AccountKit offers to you. But very quickly, AccountKit allows you to customize its user interface so that it looks like just another part of your app. It has rich analytics. So Emeka talked about the importance of being able to measure what's happening at every stage of the customer journey. And that's part of AccountKit as well. We offer things like aggregated and anonymized demographic data, so you know who's coming in, and detailed conversion data, so you know how they're making it through your sign-up flow. We offer multiple notification options. This is one of our #1 requests from developers, was having other ways besides SMS to notify users of their one-time code to get into the app. So I mentioned voice verification. If an SMS can't be delivered, someone can get their code by voice. We also offer the ability to send that one-time code via a Facebook notification. So that little red number in the corner that tells you your mom commented on your post, you can get your AccountKit code that way too. We have the AccountKit Preferences API. So if, for example, you have an application that does not have a back-end server, but you have data that you might want a user to be able to take with them if they change devices. It could be app configuration, high scores, or whatever. The AccountKit Preferences API is an online key value store where you may store up to 100 keys and up to a kilobyte of data in each value. And then finally, it's available on multiple surfaces. So we offer native SDKs for iOS and Android, JavaScript SDK for web, and more recently what we call the basic web SDK that does not require JavaScript. So if, for example, you're writing a surface for Facebook Free Basics, or if you are serving people who have feature phones whose browsers may not support JavaScript, the AccountKit basic web SDK is something you might look into. So with all that said, if you're implementing both Facebook login and AccountKit with email and phone number, you are covering 95% of everyone's top 2 preferences for logging in. And that's our purpose in doing all that user research and using that to inform these products, is to allow you to give your customers what's best for them. And we've seen the power of that evident in the results our partners get when they integrate AccountKit. So just to pick one, Afrinoli, you may be familiar. They are, it's an app, a mobile app for African entertainment enthusiasts, where they can see movies and trailers and music videos that the content holders have made publicly available. And the thing they saw is that when they added AccountKit to their existing login options, they saw a 23% increase in monthly registrations. And it's a thing we've seen with multiple partners, by the way, is that by adding AccountKit, by adding that phone number or email option, they saw a lift in registrations. And they usually saw it not at the expense of the other login options they were already offering. It was almost pure lift. They were offering users something new that they wanted, and they saw results in their conversion and in their engagement. So these are just very brief overviews of 2 relatively deep products. So definitely, if you have questions about them, I encourage you to come up and talk to us, ask us about them at the office hours afterwards. And then I think that's all I have for you. So thank you so much for your time and attention. It was great speaking with you. I look forward to talking with more of you after the presentations. Abby is going to talk to you now about reaching your audience.
Hey guys. So you have your wonderful app, products, services. How are you going to make money? How are you going to drive people to download your apps? How are you going to drive leads? How are you going to pay the bills? This is where I come in. So my name is Abby. I'm based in Dublin. I run a small, medium businesses for ads platform across Africa, Middle East, and Turkey. So I'm going to give you a very high-level overview on how you can drive this value for your business on the Facebook platform. So our agenda and our mission is to ensure that every Kenyan shilling that you spend on Facebook returns ROI. Every dollar, every naira, whatever the currency, it's about driving business value for your business. So let's look at the status quo of Facebook in Kenya. At the moment, we have 7.6 million accessing Facebook every month on our platform, with 3.8 actively returning every day. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people on a platform. These are your audiences. These are the people that you want to engage with. Let's talk about mobile, this tiny mobile that we all play with, we carry everywhere. The great thing about Facebook is we are set up to ensure that you can drive your business on the mobile. And in Africa, we're a mobile-first region. You know, we've bypassed desktop to the mobile. In other regions in Europe, you know, they went from desktop to mobile, but we just dive straight in because that's what we do, right? Yay. So stats are showing that, you know, the growth of mobile and smartphone is going to continue growing, especially in this continent. What does that mean? It means that you need to be set up to take advantage of this. Your product, your services, your apps needs to be mobile ready. Your content needs to be mobile ready. If you look at, you know, the last time you went on your mobile, you were scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, and you stopped. What made you stop? What made you look at that content? Think about that the next time you stop to look at something specifically. So as, you know, developers, as, you know, product managers, what we want to do is want to develop content that makes people stop to look at your apps, to look at your products, to look at your services. And we're going to talk about how you can do that. Again, mobile ad spend is growing. We are getting into the... TV is important, but even on TV, the last time you were watching TV, what were you doing? What we're finding is people, even while watching TV, while listening to the radio, they're on their mobile phones. While eating, you're on your mobile phone. Some people, while using the bathroom, they're on their mobile phones. So we're using our mobile and carrying it everywhere. Probably shouldn't have said that, but hey. I mentioned earlier that Africa is mobile first. 97% of people engaging on our platform are engaging on their mobile. So again, the question you need to be asking yourself is, how set up am I? How mobile ready is my app? How mobile ready is my business? And again, I mentioned earlier that this surge of mobile is only going to continue up to the right. We're seeing a lot of changes in consumer behavior due to mobile. So for example, people's time and attention are on mobile. When we look at the stats of, you know, how many hours people spend on mobile, here in Africa, people spend a lot of time on mobile, even more than Europe. I remember a stats that was showing that in Nigeria, people spend about, I think, 6 or 7 hours on their mobile per day. Think about it. How many hours do you spend on your mobile? Somebody said 5? More. What do you think the stats is for Kenya? 10? Back on mobile, Mobile is the beginning of discovery. So the last time I bought a pair of shoes, I didn't just go and say, okay, I'm going to buy a pair of shoes today, so I'm just going to go out and try and find a shop to buy a pair of shoes. I probably saw a pair of shoes on Instagram or on Facebook. Then I noted that brand. Brand X, that's a very interesting shop. They sell very interesting things. Then I decided to order this online, or maybe I went offline. But the point is, discovery of that brand started online. It started on Facebook or on Instagram. And then another thing we're seeing is the consumer journey is fragmented. So for example, maybe I saw that ad on using my phone, but I decided to purchase that product using my iPad. Or maybe I finished on my laptop when I was at work. So the journey is fragmented across several devices, from mobile to iPad to the laptop. So let's talk about how do you reach your advertising objectives with Facebook. I said to you earlier that our mission is to ensure that every penny you spend on the platform returns ROI for you. So I'm going to talk about two things. So again, it starts with what is your objective? You know, sometimes I get clients that come and tell me, oh, Abby, you know, we want to drive likes. I'm like, why do you want to drive likes? What's the objective? Well, the objective is I want to generate more leads for my business. Well, if you want to generate leads for your business, then having more likes isn't necessarily going to reach that objective. Why? The last time you liked something on Facebook or Instagram, there are a couple of reasons why you liked it. Firstly, maybe you're just a liker. Some people just like everything. Secondly, maybe the thing just looked nice, it was colorful, and it just looked nice, and you just liked it. You didn't like it necessarily because you wanted to buy the product. So one thing myself and my team do every day is educate small, medium businesses in order to use the right product, in order to drive the right objectives. Let's talk about audience targeting. On Facebook, we know exactly what people are doing, what and why. We know the demographics, we know the location where they're based, we know what their interests are. We know what consumer behavior is like. So for example, there's a client of mine who wanted to target parents who were at home during the day, who were minding their kids. They had a product specifically for them. Our platform knows exactly who these people are. You have an app that maybe wants to target females. Maybe wants to target socialites. Maybe wants to target people that love dancing like me. We know exactly the interests of everybody on our platform. This is what makes this platform powerful in your hands to ensure that your product, your service, your apps is targeted to the relevant people you want to target it to. Not people that are going to like it. You want people that are going to download that app. You want people that are going to buy your services. You want the relevant people. It's all about relevance. And we're focused on relevance, ensuring that the right people that will engage with your products come to you. Let's talk about custom audiences. So for example, maybe you have a database of customers that have used your platform before, used your products or services. What we can do is we can upload this on Facebook and target them. We can even go a step further and find people who look like those people and act like them. Great thing about our platform is insights. Anything you can't measure is useless. So we provide you with the insights of the people engaging with your services or products. So here's an example. Maybe you have a campaign objective to drive mobile app installs. Our system optimizes to ensure that we drive the relevant people to download your app. So for example, if you have an app that's targeted to people between the age of 20 to 40. We don't want that to be shown to our moms and dads in their 60s or 50s. That's useless. So again, it's very important that you know what is the objective. What are you trying to achieve? And then Facebook helps you place that objective or that ad in front of the right people in the right places across Facebook, Instagram, and audience network, depending on what's most relevant. And then your target audience, you choose that, and we have several formats. Again, video is big. People love video. But then you have to think about, okay, everybody loves consuming video, but how about in Africa where people are data starved? People are thinking about the data costs and so on and so forth. How do I ensure that I'm conscious of this, of my audience, to ensure that the format I'm using is not consuming too much data? So we have different formats that addresses all those different needs. We have different formats that addresses those on 2G, those on 3G, those on 4G. Creative, I'm going to talk very quickly around creative best practice. So again, you have this amazing app, amazing service or products. But what's going to make me stop while I'm browsing through my phone? Very important for you to ensure that you're targeting the right audience with the right creative. For example, Africans like to dance. So anything that is dancing has me stopping. So again, it's about knowing your audience and ensuring that you're tailoring your creatives to engage that specific audience. So a couple of things to think about. Match your creative to the relevant stage of the customer journey. Leverage quality images. We're in a world today whereby there's no excuse not to have quality image. Highlight your business value in a concise way, very early. What does that mean? Ensure that your brand is visible very early. Reminds me of back then, when they had movies and stuff. In the beginning of the movie, you start the movie and you don't know what's going to happen in the middle and the end, and you wait to the end to see what happens. It's the other way around. From the beginning, I should know what your brand is, what you're trying to sell to me very quickly, because remember, you only have a few seconds to engage your audience. So how can you do that within the first 3 seconds? So think about that. Think about the fact that people are data starved. Think about the fact that people don't have time. So how can you engage them immediately they land on your product, your app, or your service? And then another thing that's very important is try different creatives. So this audience, maybe from the age of 18 to 23, they might like something different. Another audience within the age of 35 to 55, they might like something different. So try, test your different audience. Absolutely worth it. And then that's it. After the session, we're going to have a booth at the back with my team. So if you have more questions about ads and so on, please visit the booths. And then now I'm going to invite Ford up to the stage to talk to us more about Audience Network. Thank you, guys.
Hello. How are you? Doing well? First, I'm going to start by saying that this is really me. I used to look like that one day. So if you see me one day in the street and I happen to have shaved, you can come say hi as well. Cool. So we heard a lot today about the customer journey. And I like to think about it as a funnel because there's also a timing perspective. We heard about, and we will keep hearing a bit more later today as well, about how to build audiences and how to keep engaged and grow the engagement on those audiences. My talk is going to be about monetization and how you can make money, basically, from the content and the services that you publish on the internet, whether it's on an app, on web, or on video platforms. However, you might be surprised, I don't want you to rush into those solutions. Think carefully when is the right timing to go into monetization. Is it the right time to have ads in the middle of my feed or my app or my website? How will the user think about this? How will they feel? Will they stay on the site? Will they leave quicker, etc.? Those are questions that only you can really know with A/B testing with solutions like Facebook Analytics, where you can get more insights, and with your basically taking the risk and putting those ads. Cool. So who's publishing content here in some form or the other, whether it's app, web, or video? I'm sure there's more. Could be on a blog supporting your website, could be the core of your... Okay, I see more hands. Cool. So we all face a lot of challenges, right? So we're going to address a bit some of those challenges that we face as publishers. And again, I'm going to use the word publisher here, but this is really anybody publishing content on the internet. Again, app, web, instant article on the Facebook platform, and video. So we see huge shifts in content consumption, right? And we're all familiar with that, even more here in Africa, and specifically in Kenya. So there is a big move from print to TV, right? And then to digital, print and TV to digital. 20% of ad spend is now believed to be on digital. This is a global average. There's another shift from desktop to mobile, and actually this is past. It's not even new. Many people are coming to the internet for the first time on mobile, and you're all familiar with that. So we talked about stats in Nigeria where we're talking between 5, 6, and 7 hours. This is a global average. I think the continent here and other countries in the region are way far ahead than the global average. And then there's another very important shift from text to video content, right? And video is much more engaging. So 75% of mobile content is expected to be in video by 2020. This is huge. So this raises a lot of questions. As a publisher, as a business, how do I increase ad revenue if I'm already using it? How do I increase ad revenue while keeping the user experience intact? Again, my first question, is it the right time to put the ads? Is it the right time to monetize? Or will this scare or diminish from the user experience on my business? How do I package and sell my inventory across devices? Right? You might be a content publisher, you might be a news publisher or entertainment, you have a website, you have an app. How do you actually group all this and put it as one business? How do you maximize the advertiser value on your property? Like, how do you make sure that an ad on your website, let's say, is actually driving performance? And then, how do you reduce the waste by delivering the right ad to the right person? And again, you're going to hear me talking a lot about the user experience, because this is really the key here. And then, you want to have quality ads. You don't want bad ads to appear on your website or your app. You've spent hours, thousands of hours with your team building this. You've got to preserve it. So there are challenges, but there are also opportunities. We talk about the shift from text to image and then basically to video. So this shift has also been carried on by the way ad spend is going. It used to be on text publication and then on photos with the websites getting much more rich media, and then on video. So in 2018, the digital ad spend is expected to be at $260 billion. So that's a huge number, you come to think about it. And the growth, I don't have the growth figure from 2017 and 2016, but you can guess that it's at least 2 digits there. So another opportunity is that there is a need for deeper audience targeting. Abby talked a bit about if you're running a campaign to acquire users or to increase the engagement. This is also for you as a business owner. You want to make sure that your user is seeing the right ad. So age and gender are not enough. There are other data that companies like Facebook have that can basically deliver a better ad experience on your site. What does this mean? This means happier user, interacting with ads. This is ideal, but it's possible. It's not only a virtual idea. They stay on your site, and then when is the right time, they would click on an ad, and this is revenue for you. So this is the theory behind it. What does Facebook do here, really? So you're all familiar with our mission to give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together. Facebook is not alone in this mission. You are all helping, and Facebook is helping you in a way. So publishers are really pioneers in helping build community by engaging passionate audiences, sometimes creating and bringing those audiences together, by creating quality content and distributing it on the internet, by stimulating engaging conversation and basically bridging offline and digital channels. So it's in our mission, really, to empower those publishers, so you, to make meaningful connections between the people and the businesses. In this context, Facebook launched the Audience Network back in 2014. So it's a relatively new product within the Facebook suite. It was launched at F8. It started as a mobile app solution first, so only on mobile apps. But then we expanded this into web and video. So today, if you're producing video within a video player, you could get ads coming from Facebook by using the Audience Network and monetize this content. Same for mobile web under a certain form. More than happy to address later all the details around this at the booth. So we'll also be probably in this corner. And then the best part is that this is not just one solution that is static and there. It's evolving. There are continuous enhancements there. And we're really thinking about where will the eyeballs be in the next few years and how can we help publishers creating content there generate revenue. So there are really two things the Audience Network can help you with. One is really to engage with people, better engagement with people, and the second is really growing your business. There's a lot of text here, but I'll keep it simple. This is some very interesting stats, but I just want to take a step back. By engaging people on your properties with the ads, it's basically by content that the users like. So there are two formats here we're talking about. There is native ads and there's also video ads. Native ads is really an ad where you as a publisher have the full freedom to customize the look and feel of this ad, to blend it in within your app or your website. We'll see some example in the next slide. So 84% of the impression on the Audience Network are native, which means users tend to see better user experience and engagement with the ads. The other one is really video. So 60% growth in 2016 of video across the network. Those numbers should be even higher for this year. The second result of using Audience Network is really growing your business. So in 2016, we paid $1 billion to publishers globally. Tens of thousands here in the continent. And usually the feedback that we get, and this is from Daily Mail here, is like the yield on qualified impression is 2 to 3 times higher than other ad networks. What this really means is 52% increase on CPMs. So potentially by using the Audience Network, you get up to 50% and sometimes more higher CPM, which is the revenue that you get for every 1,000 impressions. And this is because the ads are targeting the users based on Facebook data. The ads are better looking. You have customized the look and feel. So it's not just an ad that comes and disrupt the user flow, but you decide where to put it. Basically, that's a summary of what I just said. A people-based monetization ecosystem. That's what we're together we can build. And what it really means, it's a happy publisher, happy advertiser, and happy users, happy people. Publishers, by having better monetization, can invest more time in building better content and more engaging content. Advertisers can have all their creative ads have a bigger reach by going beyond Facebook and Instagram, but also on the Audience Network, which is the partner sites and apps. And then for the people, it's more relevant ads across the web, not only on Facebook and on Instagram. How does it really look like? So we have, I mentioned video solutions. We have display solution across web and app. We have on Facebook solutions. So this is Instant Article. Anyone using Instant Article here to publish their content on Facebook? I have a couple of hands. More than happy if you have any question on this later. And this is it, basically. This is few screenshots. So for the people that are seeing this for the first time, to have a really visual of how it works. I'm going to just spend 1 minute here explaining one thing. You see those campaigns. So this is a native ad that is within the feed of this app. And this is an in-stream which comes as a pre-roll before you play the video on a video player. And this is an interstitial full screen that is triggered at the time that the developer decided. Those are all ads that are running on Facebook newsfeed. The advertiser, could be any one of you, check the box to allow this campaign, this creative, to expand and go beyond Facebook newsfeed and to appear on the Audience Network. It's exactly the same Facebook targeting, that is allowing this ad to target you if you were using your favorite game or reading your favorite news source, or if you were on newsfeed. It's the same auction. So it's really a unified experience across all the web, including Facebook and Instagram in this case. So this is the video formats. This is what we're calling here display ads. In reality, it's really banners, interstitial, as well as native ads. Here are a few examples where you can see the ad is really well blended in within the flow of the app. This is another one as well, in the middle. And the results that it's really driving is a higher click-through rate, so more users are clicking, and this is healthy clicks. This is not accidental clicks. It's not by mistake, which leads eventually to better advertiser value, so a higher CPM for the publishers, so more revenue for you. This is an example of two publishers, and hopefully we can work together to have more local case studies. We're just about to publish one from Nigeria called naij.com, and we're also working here with Tuko and a few others. Hopefully next time we come here, we'll have those stories here, or any one of you here. We talked about Instant Article. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically a platform where you can upload your content, and it will already be preloaded with a faster loading time, and it's also going to give you the same monetization possibilities as on your website. You can have your direct sold campaign there. You can have monetization with the audience network, and you can also do branded content in case you want to associate your brand with another brand and do a joint activation. There are more than 10,000 publishers on Instant Article, 25% growth in the last 6 months alone, and then every day we pay more than $1 million for so for publishers on Instant Article. Let me just here deep dive on this case study from France 24. So they put together a strategy to increase their overall traffic. So it increased by 50%. 42% of this increase has been directly attributed to Instant Article. This is not only about ads here, it's about creating a better user experience. Because on average, globally, we have a 30% incremental distribution on Facebook newsfeed for an article that is posted as an Instant Article. And this is because newsfeed values faster loading time and better UX, basically, and better user experience. 30% is the global average. I know for a fact that it's much higher in Africa and the Middle East and few of the other regions. Now, this is what we have at the moment, and again, more than happy to talk at the booth about this. But let's look quickly about what's coming next. Without really looking specifically at the solutions, this is just to tell you that we are actually building for the future. You can see here connected TV that we're going to be testing towards the end of the year. So our view is really wherever the users are, wherever you are building your content and services to appear on, we want to enable you to monetize and basically sustain your businesses. And this is just, I think this is the first time we're having this talk about audience network here. It's certainly not the last time. I just want to tell you something. Let us work together so we really understand how it works for you, so we really can capture feedback. And this is the only way we're going to be able to scale those monetization solutions to your businesses and enable you. Cool. Thank you. Now we're going to be with Ziad, talk about the Messenger platform.
Thank you, Fuad.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Fuad. This was really exciting. Guys, I'm just going to start off with something I typically do. Just going to take a story on Instagram. So at the count of 3, I want you to shout hello from Nairobi. A lot of excitement, okay? All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Hello from Nairobi.
Thanks a lot, guys. All right, before starting with my talk, I just want you guys to remember a time where you were calling a company and for some reason, it was taking a lot of time to get through. You were calling a customer care agent and maybe you waited for like 10, 15, 20 minutes when you're trying to get through a business. Has it happened to anyone else? Pretty much everyone, right? About a year ago, I needed to change my flight tickets on a flight I was taking with Air France. And I just thought, I'm too busy during the day, can't figure out the time to call them. So I'm just going to give it a shot, send a message to them on Facebook, and see what happens. I sent a message, just said, hey, that's my reference number. I want to change this flight to that day. And within an hour, they answered me, they're like, it's done. I was like, whoa, that's a really cool experience. And this is the kind of experiences that we're going to talk about today. How you can engage your audience and engage your customers on the Messenger platform. And I'm really excited to be here today with you guys in Nairobi. So my name is Ziad. I manage engineering in Europe, Middle East, and Africa for Messenger partnerships. So Messenger is getting quite big, and messaging as a whole as well. By the end of next year, it's expected that more than 2 billion people will be using messaging services. So today we want to learn a bit about how do messaging services operate and what are some of the specificities of Messenger that can help you and help your business. Messenger makes it easy to reach just about everyone. You don't need to be friends with them on Facebook. You don't need to have their phone number. You just need to look them up, send them a message, and engage. But beyond that, also Messenger has a lot of very rich features, whether it's gifts, scheduling something and a messenger reminding you, video calls, in some countries payments, hopefully soon here, and basically just a lot of very interactive features that take messaging further than just sending texts. But the one thing we're going to talk about today is engaging with businesses. And you as businesses, how you can get your customers to engage with you. This is one of the key features, feature that is exciting about Messenger. So on Messenger itself, today we have 1.3 billion active people using the service every month. That's a really cool, cool number, and it's a big deal. And we see this as part of a huge consumer shift that has been taking shape over the last few years. So businesses get the message. They know that people are on Messenger. And today there's 70 million business pages on Facebook, so 70 million businesses of any size on Facebook. And more than 20 million of these engage with their customers on Messenger. And as more businesses move to this new channel, we're seeing that the expectation of customers is evolving into expecting to be able to send a message to a business on Facebook. So the preference we have for communicating with individuals is also shaping up our preference with communicating with businesses. So just going to talk about a year and a half ago when we kicked off the Messenger platform at our F8 event in San Jose in California. We had, obviously their numbers were 0. And today we have 100,000 active developers on the Messenger platform and more than 100,000 active bots that are also there. So it's been a great learning experience for us to keep on investing on the Messenger platform and to understand how we can help you build some of these experiences. And the ecosystem is really thriving. Bots have simplified a lot of these interactions. And today, here are just a few of the partners that we're working with that can help businesses thrive on Messenger. So Messenger, as we said, allows you to create powerful and personalized experiences that bring your brand to life. There's a couple of things that you could do. So for example, whether it's delivering customer service or raising awareness for your brand or engaging some of your existing customers or acquiring new customers, Messenger can be part of the solution. In the next few slides, we're going to talk about specific examples that are existing today on the Messenger platform that hopefully can inspire you and show you how this product can be used for your use case. So here's an example of a partner who has worked with us to drive outcome for their business and to raise awareness about their brand. So Tommy Hilfiger, a clothing brand, launched a chatbot on Messenger to tie it with their New York Fashion Week catwalk show. So they enabled TMI.grl, and the service enabled a very personalized interactive experience where basically Gigi Hadid, who's a celebrity in the US, it would be able to advise people on what to wear. So you would have some cars that you could swipe through, and if you like something, you just add it and buy it. This was very good for Tommy Hilfiger, and they basically were able to get 3.5x the number of interactions they got with other channels. In addition to building brand awareness, we believe that Messenger allows you to acquire new customers, customers that weren't on using your service or acquiring your products before, that you can get through Messenger. So let's take a look about this specific example. Mercedes-Benz, who everyone knows, wanted to get more people to drive some of their cars, and specifically the 4x4s. So they launched a campaign in the Middle East whereby they wanted to get people to interact with the bot, understand what kind of cars they have, and get people to book all the way to a test drive, because then from a test drive, they can convert this in acquisitions. So it started off with exploring your SUVs. You can see a bit how the experience looks like. And at any point, when a person wants to shift and talk to a human, they can do that as well. This was very good for Mercedes-Benz. They were able to get more than 2,000 interactions with the bot, 4% conversion rate of people that went from interacting to actually doing test drive. And the number is about how many actually bought the car. I'm not sure. I'm sure it's very high. Right, this is one of my favorites, enabling transactions. Businesses are starting to realize that Messenger, beyond just raising awareness and beyond just a tool for interacting with customers to build a brand, it's also something that can drive concrete monetization and can drive some transactions. So here's one of my favorite services. The service is called Elves. It's basically a bot that is mainly in Egypt, whereby you can ask it to do anything you want, and it's going to provide a service for you, whether you want to book some accommodation, book a taxi, order something. So they launched something specific during Ramadan a couple of months ago, whereby they partnered with Tortina, which is a bakery, where they would basically have an embedded experience within the bot to allow you to very easily order some of the bakery items that Tortina sold that were very typical for Ramadan. So you can see, basically, you say Ramadan treats, Ramadan treats, you swipe in the cards, and when you make your pick, you choose it. And at the end of it, when you're ready to exit, it's going to open a web view. We're going to talk about web views later. And then all the way to delivery. So with that, Elves was able to have a 63% conversion rate. That's quite a massive number. That's not a number you hear often in any kind of conversion rates. And the customer satisfaction was massive, with 96%. And you can see now with just a couple of seconds of this video, this is the whole flow of someone ordering something. It's quite cool, right? The last point I want to talk about today is customer service. So the number one thing that people care about, and that most people raise their hands in the room when I ask this question about how often you wait on the phone when you're trying to get a business, is that we care about responsiveness. We don't want to stay for 30 minutes on the phone. It doesn't make us feel appreciated as customers. So as businesses, the goal is obviously to also save money and not have a lot of people to just be answering phone calls for some of the more trivial requests. So business want to create basically the capacity to be responsive in a scalable way, which is quite difficult to get. So Celio, which is basically a service in Uganda, was able to automate a lot of the most common interactions that people want to have with their service in order to facilitate. Sorry, I thought it was a video right there. So they wanted to basically answer these typical questions like, what are the customer service hours, some of the most common, frequently asked questions, and it effectively allowed them to reduce cost by quite a lot, while still increasing the customer satisfaction because of less waiting times and because like a slick interaction. Right, so the Messenger platform is designed for the way you do business. So it's conversational, it's social, and it's visual. So on the conversational part, basically you can either just talk to people directly, so you have a human-to-human interaction between customer agents and the user, or you can have a bot. You automate at least a huge chunk of the interaction, or the hybrid model, bit of both. It's also quite visual, so you can show rather than tell. So it's a better experience than being on the phone. So you can see the example right there, for example, where when you say like masks or a cleanser, you can actually see them as well. And the last thing, it's also social. So it's very easy to spread the bot around, to share it with your friends, and even to have a chat extension collaborate with you on your interaction with your friend that we're going to talk about in a bit. we've made a lot of changes for the Messenger platform since the last iteration a year and a half ago. And basically, we launched a lot of features that I'm going to talk about today in a very brief manner, and I invite you to come to see me and my much more knowledgeable colleague Tudor later on at the booth to talk about these in more details. So account linking is basically a protocol that we created in order to facilitate matching between your customer accounts, so the accounts that customers have on your own website and on Messenger. So the way it goes is basically you can authenticate using a web view, and you can connect your representation or your object that represents a customer with what it is on Messenger. And this way you're able to have a very deep and more personal experience for your customers. Also, most bots have a menu or a settings function, and we saw that basically the best thing we can do here is having this persistent menu at the bottom of the page, not a dial box, not just like a free-for-all text form, but just something that's going to guide people towards the different services that your bot is able to provide. So this eliminates the need to remember the exact semantics that you need in order to communicate with the bot. And finally, quick replies. Quick replies enable a very quick way of guiding the conversation. So when someone is sending a query, you're able to pre-populate a few possible responses and quickly reply to them in order to keep them engaged rather than making them wait for a longer time. So some of the latest features, I'm going to talk about two things we added in the discovery surface. And I'm going to talk about chat extensions, which I mentioned before. So this is our discovery surface. So this was the #1 request from the community. And we recently announced the first version of this. For now, it's mainly live in the US. We're testing it out in other markets and hope to extend it very soon. But it's basically to have some features and popular units for bots. The one thing I want to mention here, in order to get the best distribution in the organic way on the Facebook world, it's really good to have a very high response rate for your page and to have your bot be always on, basically, because it's something we track. If someone is interacting with a business and there's no response, we're not going to be servicing this bot because it will just be a dead end for the customers. The second thing is about parametric codes. So basically, with just taking a photo, you're able to open the bot experience within something specific. So we've had, since the launch, something whereby you can take a photo of a code and it opens the experience within the Messenger bot, the Messenger app with your bot. But now we added something new, which is basically you can open something specific in the bot. So let's say if you want to give a special promotion to 50 people, you can scan you can print the code, and only the 50 people that can take a photo can unlock this experience in the Messenger bot. So it's quite a cool way to do this kind of more segmented approaches. And the second thing here, apart from discovery, is chat extensions. So recently we reworked our composer in Messenger. I'm sure you guys have seen some of these changes. And we added what we're calling the drawer, which also opens the chat extension. So it allows for a lot of social features that users can have. For example, if I'm having a conversation with one person talking about a project, I can have my task bot tag along and track a list of tasks that both of us are going to use as a widget that is within the app and track the completion of our project. There are also dozens and dozens of examples about a lot of music services, such as Spotify, that have integrations with chat extensions, where you can basically have a cool interaction with your friend aided by a bot. Right, so now we're going to talk about some tips to build a great bot. And I'm saying this because our narrative has changed a bit since a year and a half. A lot of the people that started working on bots wanted to build the optimal AI experience, some very advanced form of NLP. It's a very tough thing to build. So these tips and a lot of the work we made in the past year and a half are just to help you to, when you actually build a bot, you can make sure that it's going to be working for you fully. So Messenger is much more than a communication channel. And here's just some of the tips to use it to the full potential. So that's what I like to call death by decision tree. It's a negative thing. And you can see like the screenshot for you, those of you in the back, you probably can't see it. But basically, you know, if you want to book a travel, like a trip, you don't want the bot to ask you a ton of questions and having to reply to each one individually. Because then if you make the slightest mistake in the flow, there's no way to go back. You have to re-answer everything again. So it's very messy. So basically, typing can also be annoying, and it's easy to make mistakes. So this flow, not good. This is an example of what not to do. So what you want to do instead is taking multiple inputs, collecting them, and then making a decision based on that. That's a bad thing. So what you want to do instead in the second example we have, this is one of my favorite bots. If you guys don't know it, try it out. It's called Swelly. Swelly is this cool bot that helps you make decisions in your life. For example, what snack should I buy, or what should I wear today? You basically take a picture of something and let the community choose for you. But anyway, in a nutshell, Swelly is using some of the coolest features within Messenger to not have like a lot of text input, basically, and have something more dynamic in the form of the card that you can see here. Right. The second thing, if you do need to collect multiple input, and sometimes it happens, a web view might be a better alternative, because then you can design it to have some checkboxes or some bullets or something like this. So basically, I can have a web view open and have a flow that then goes back into Messenger. The one thing to say here is that you don't want your web view to take too much prominence. You don't want your bot to basically just be a website, because then it defeats the point of having a bot. But the thing to keep in mind here is that you may use web views to your advantage. Right, so since version 1.4, we enhanced the bot menu much more. You can see at the bottom the small interaction. So you have a menu, and you also have a sub-menu, the persist menu that we talked about before. It's also nice to add some of the emojis here. It just makes it cooler, more human, and more interactive. But that's an example of the eBay shop bot that has, that will basically direct you to what you can do and basically show you what are the capabilities of the bot. So, but just because you now have nested menus doesn't mean that you can, need to make a massive menu. It's good to keep it quite restrained. Right, the last thing I want to talk about is organic discovery. So we've been adding a lot of things to make sure that your bot can be featured. This is an example of the TechCrunch website with the Message Us button on the top right. So basically, as long as you're logged in onto Facebook, when you click Message Us, it's just going to open Messenger both on a mobile app or on a desktop, and basically just open up the interaction with your bot immediately. I just tried it 2 days ago with one of the brands I wanted to buy from online, and I thought it was a really, really cool experience. So this is called the Send to Messenger plugin, basically. The second thing is custom sharing. So you can see here this example. When you want to when you want to make a flow whereby you're enticing people to come to your bot, you can make something custom with a specific button that says, for example, accept challenge. Can you beat me at Harry Potter or something like that? You can use Messenger to make something very nice rather than just a normal invitation to use a bot. Right, there's also paid discovery. My colleagues talked briefly about that. But this is an example of a feed unit where you can have customers send a message. That's also quite useful. When someone's roaming into newsfeed, we also have options like call to actions where you can call now, but send to Messenger has been very good in a lot of cases, especially if you have a bot experience, especially if you have a conversion rate like Elves has of 63%. You can just have an ad here, have your user send a message to your bot, and then you're going to make sure that you're going to have a higher conversion rate at that point. Cool. Now I'm going to have a request from you guys. Please, all of you, pull out your phones, open the Messenger app, open the camera, zoom into this, and this is an example of a code where you can open the bot that we created for this event with you guys today. It's working? Yeah? Sorry? It's also on the back of your badge as well, if that's too far. So you can just pull your phone, open Messenger, open the camera, take the photo that's on the back of your badge, or here, it's nicer, and you're going to be able to enjoy our bot. Great. Just going to leave you guys with the last link, developers.facebook.com/products/messenger. But if you have any questions, please come and see us later. Thanks a lot, everyone. I'm going to leave you with Michael, who's going to be talking about analytics. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael. I'm an engineer working at Facebook Singapore. And today, I want to talk about Facebook analytics. When businesses are first starting out, most people care about user acquisition. In other words, growth. However, growth is not just acquisition. We believe that acquisition is only half of growth, because another half is user engagement and retention. If you are not too careful about engagement and retention, you are likely losing out a lot of customers that you already acquired. So, engagement is important. However, engagement can be also very challenging. Based on some internal Facebook data, we see that on average, an app will lose 77% of its customers within the first week. And this is just looking at the daily active user. If you look at the monthly active user, the percentage is even bigger than that. So that's user engagement. Also, 60% of apps is open only less than 10 times since they're installed, just 10 times. So how do we bridge this gap? And we want to build a tool to help you beat those average numbers. And the first step is to understand your business, understand your customers, so that you can take more insightful actions. That is why we built Facebook Analytics for apps. And let me talk to you more about a little bit of history of analytics product. This is not just from Facebook, but analytics product in general. So analytics product started as early as the web started. It's in the 1990s, where the entire www was based on HTTPs with HTML content. And the problem is HTTP only allowed for very basic tracking and measurement. Most of them are URL-based and relies a lot on cookies. So the data collected from this time is only session-based and is not able to know the complete user journey of your products. So we have Analytics 2.0. This started 10 years ago when mobile app development started to explode. And the old-fashioned URL and session-based, cookie-based tracking and measurement does not work for mobile apps anymore. So now, in Analytics 2.0, the measurement is more based on events and devices. And we want to adopt this new way of capture the entire user journey from, for example, some e-commerce sites, from the landing page to the add to cart to the purchase page to the final transaction finish. So that's the entire user journey that we need to capture. And all these are based on events and devices. So that's very good. Most of the apps right now are based on this model. However, there's still one problem. Mobile and web are still considered two different channels. How can you know a person who viewed your products on your website and make purchase on your mobile? We cannot do that. So that's why we have Analytics 3.0. In this era, the problem, like I just mentioned, was implicit. Modern user behavior is based on multiple devices, multiple channels, and we want to capture all these devices and channels which link to the same person. So in this time, Analytics 3.0, we want to analyze not just device, not just events, but people. We want to identify you as a person. There's another problem. That is the amount of data that we collect. There's so many data that we collect nowadays that sometimes it's very hard to tell what is the insight behind all these data. And that's why we build analytics to help you as a powerful tool to quickly search among your data and provide you with some insights. So that's why I want to discuss about this new product, Facebook Analytics. And this can help you navigate a people-based approach to understand your customers. And before we go into the details, let me give you a very quick overview of analytics products. So if you're not familiar with this product, Facebook Analytics is a tool to help you understand two problems. One is, who is your customer? Two is, how does your customer interact with your business? And once you have identified these two problems, you can take actions based on the segmentations, based on the funnels, and the optimizations by doing either ads or other actions like lookalike or re-engagement. It's all provided in this one tool, Facebook Analytics, and it's completely free to use, no matter how many events you're logging. And it's cross-platform and cross-channel. You can easily do, in Facebook Analytics, you can easily do something like user engage with your page, make a comment to your Facebook ads, for example, and then go to your website, view the details, and then go to Messenger bot, do the purchase. We can do that. Either you have a mobile app, iOS and Android website, a mobile version of the website, or Messenger bot, or other channels. We can do that tracking all in the analytics. And you can also build the funnels based on different channels. And last, it's very important to realize Facebook Analytics is not bundled with Facebook Login. So Facebook Login is not required. If you just follow the simple 2 steps that I will explain later, you can get the data right away. And no other setup is required. This is the 2 simple steps. One, you need to install the Facebook SDK. If you have an app, it's going to be the Android SDK or the iOS SDK. Or if you have a website or the mobile version of the website, it's the JavaScript SDK. Or Messenger bot have some other SDK as well. And the Facebook page login is automatic if you have the correct setup. Second is to log an event. This is pretty straightforward. You just need to identify what are the events, what are the user interactions with your app, and find out the code point. Add the Facebook logins to either the buttons or the view of your products or the finish of transaction, and then you should have all the login data ready. And once you have the login data ready, you can utilize all these features that is provided in Facebook Analytics. I will go through some of the important ones in this session, and if you're interested in all of them, feel free to talk to me after the session is finished. We have a booth right there. Okay, so the most important feature I want to talk about is demographics. Facebook can share with you important deep and detailed and specific information about your customers. From this chart, you can see demographics right here, and it provides you with the age and gender of your users. By the way, all the data is anonymous and aggregated, so you cannot see a specific user's data. And not only just the age and gender, we also have countries, cities, language, and even job titles, education levels, or your relationship status. And this tool really helps you to understand who your customers are. And by using this tool, you can understand what are your products' market fit, and where is the segment of demographic you want to make more investment. Let me go back one slide. So not only just the education level, relationship status, or job titles, you can also go to the page likes and to see what are the pages that your customer have liked, so that you can understand your customer interest even better. I have one example right after this slide. Yeah. Let me give you a case study of Angarmi, which is a Arab world startup which do music streaming service for North Africa and the Middle East. So they did this, they use analytics to find out the users who have not launched the app within the last 30 days. Basically, they are not a part of the monthly active users. So identify these users and try to re-engage these users based on the page they liked on their Facebook. So this provides them with a better recommendation mechanisms, so that they actually are able to bring back 10% of these non-monthly active user back to their app. And this directly contributes to their entire monthly active user. This is one of the co-founder, Ellie, said that by taking into the demographics and targeting segment on Facebook Analytics for apps, they were able to acquire 41% lower cost than they had been with engagement ads. Okay, so that's demographics. The second feature I want to talk about is percentiles. You can see demographics was actually right under the overview. And for activities, percentile actually give you the number of users who have the biggest number of your app launches on the right-hand side. And you can actually create a custom audience just based on these top users. And for example, if you have the revenue data logged, you can also see the number of purchase, or either the number of purchase or the purchase amount in this chart. And so you can just customize these top performing customers in your app. So what is showing in this video is we can select the top 3% of customers who spend the most money on your app and create a customer audience. And so that you can re-engage these top 3 purchase users. And not only that, you can also do something else. You can create a look-alike, which basically find out the Facebook users who are not currently engaging with your app, but they are similar to your top performing customers, and start to engage with them. This is another example from the company called Find. So by using the customer audience, they target the top 10% of users who launch the app, average 20 times or more. So doing that re-engagement actually give them 20% more higher retention rate and 14% higher purchase conversion, which is awesome. So just to summarize, using demographics and the sorry about it. Using the demographics and the segmentations, we were able to create custom audience and making use of the lookalike features to acquire new leads based on your top performing customers. And that is one of the best targeting channel that you can get. And the last feature I want to talk about today is automated insights. We launched this is pretty new. We launched this early this year in F8, and it's currently live. If your app have more than 10,000 daily active users, this feature will automatically be available for you. So if you just open analytics.facebook.com, on the very top, you will see this small cards showing you some insights about your app. We use some machine learning models to learn this. And we show the information to you. Sometimes you may not even think this information was important. For example, in this case, the people who are using your app version 4.14 was actually having 46% more time of engagement compared to other app versions. And this is just one example of the insights that you can get from automated insights. You can either pin it to the custom dashboard so you can reveal later, or you can say, I don't like this, so that no similar insights will be shown later. And that is the overview of Facebook Analytics products. And we are really excited about the potential ways that you can use analytics to understand your business, understand your customers, and you can make better business decisions. And we really welcome you to join the 1 million plus apps, websites, and bots who are already using analytics. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention. Next up is Christine talking about React.
Thank you, everyone. And before I get started, I want a special shout out to one of the people I mentioned, I mentored at the recent bot challenge. So Hudson Asiyama is here. Just want to give him a clap because he really inspired me. And also all of the developers here who are working. So my name is Christine, and I am on the open source team at Facebook. So I'm a developer advocate. And it's really special to be here because I was born in Kenya, I was raised in Kenya, and it's always good to come home. Kind of sad that I'm going to be leaving tonight, but always special to come here and talk to you. I'm going to be discussing React, and React and React Native, which are two of the open source technologies that Facebook has to build apps. So how many people here are developers or aspiring developers? Raise your hands. A lot of people in the room. Keep your hands raised if you actually have developed anything with React or React Native. Still a lot of people in the room. That's really good. And it's always great to come back here year over year and see those more hands that go up. So for those of you who don't know, React is a JavaScript library that is used for developing web apps. And we built React to solve some special problems that are unique to like big apps. So Emeka said that in the beginning, for things that are really complicated. And once we have used it for a while, we open sourced it. And we found that we knew that we wanted to share it with others because it gave us a chance to actually, we knew that other people were also facing the same problems, and we wanted to share it with them. And React, after it was open source, actually gave rise to React Native, which is you use React Native to build mobile apps. And that's actually what's key about React. And then the other thing is that there are currently hundreds of apps and lots of websites that are built with React and React Native across the internet. And we've got folks, they're not just building with these frameworks, but they're actually actively contributing back. We've got really big contributions from companies like Airbnb and Wix and Microsoft. And they've actually created some big integrations. It's really hard sometimes to estimate how many people are using React, but one thing that we actually like to use is, when we're preparing for talks, is just seeing how many people actually have the React developer tools installed. How many people here actually use React developer tools? Okay. So, the last time I checked, there were about like over 720,000 people with this installed, and the number of people who are using React actually could be even higher than that because a lot of people may not even know about the React developer tools, or they might not even have it installed. So, what's so special about React? So React is a new way of building UI, and it uses a declarative approach. And you may be asking yourself, what exactly does that mean? What does declarative mean? So let's take an example of a UI component with a like button, which can go from gray to blue, meaning that you've liked it. And how would you build this if you were using imperative approach? So if you're writing code, and this looks like pseudocode, it would say something like, if somebody actually has said that they like something, but it has a gray button, then remove the gray and add the blue. So that's what it would look like if you were doing it in the imperative approach. And you know that this can kind of look fragile, especially as there are many different use cases that you have to put in. And if you're a developer, you've probably had many bugs in your code if you're trying to like do if else, if this, and all these other things. But if you're doing things in the declarative approach, which is the React way, it would look something a little different. So the focus itself is on the UI. So here you see an example where you have a state called liked, and based on whether or not it's liked, you're showing a different UI or not. So React in itself asks you to define the different states on the app, and you don't have to worry about the transitions between them. It's a lot easier to see and understand what's going on. So the UI itself is rendered as a function of the current state. So all this means that under the hood, React actually, you need to figure out how you go to, say, the gray like in our example to the blue like. And one option that you may think of is maybe just, recreate all the UI on every page, but that would be simply very inefficient. So let's see how this would look like if you were doing it with React. So if you want to start from the view at the top, at the bottom, you see that you're transitioning from a different state to the other. So what you would do with React is you will declare all these UI states, first of all, to just say what you want it to look like. And what React will do as a framework, it'll take care of a lot of the things under the hood that previously you would have to do if you're doing it in an imperative way. It has a virtual DOM or a virtual tree, and it keeps track of where it is. And then it does the minimum set of changes to go to point A to point B. So in this example, you would be searching a node that says you like this, as well as changing the icon to blue, and also, just changing like to blue. So the pieces that need to change, that's the only thing that will change on the page, and everything else remains the same. So that's the power of what React is doing. In React, the UI is composed of components. So you can easily compose components together and put it together to build a UI and use some of these different components in different contexts. And this is better than doing things in imperative programming. So let's look at an example. So in this example, let's say we have a feedback component, and it's responsible for showing a few different things. And let's, for purposes of example, say that there are 3 other components in there, one for like info, one for common info. So let's look at what the code would look like if we were doing it on React. So every React component typically has a render method, and the render method shows what the UI is looking like. So in this render method for this feedback component, there are 3 components, one for the like, and one for the common info, and one for the like count info. And if you look at the like, which is highlighted in blue, you can see that it's taking in two inputs, which in React world we call props. And the props just basically tells what the component is, and it's usually passed from the parent to the child. And if you look at the feedback and the like info and the common info, there's two props in there that are taking care of the count information. Now, if you look at the feedback component, there's also something else that's going on in there. So there's something called a state. So in React world, a state is something that generally happens within a component, and it usually typifies what the component is doing. You can mutate states, meaning you can change it. So in this example, you see that there's an onPress handler where the state, the like state, is being changed through this.setState. Props, on the other hand, you cannot change. But the key thing is for any component, whether or not the props or the state change, the whole component is re-rendered. So in this example, whenever the feedback component state changes, if it's liked or if anything comes back from the parents, the count information, the whole feedback component is rendered. Whereas the like component, which is the one highlighted in blue, will only change if the like state changes. So that's how sort of like in React and components and state work together. Now, because React actually handles a lot of the transitions for you, it's like a little bit easier to learn. So people can come into without much React experience and not understand the UI well enough, but actually go in and actually change code in a very little amount of time. And they can do this with less code than they would do if they were writing in other ways. And this is very important at Facebook because we really like to move quickly, and React allows us to do that. And because React is so predictable, a lot of things that would break and be a lot more fragile don't do that. It makes our code more reliable overall. So how would you get started with React? Well, the best way to do this, if you just want to kind of get started real quickly, is there's an app called Create React App. It was open source last year. It's a way to get you up and running really easy. So you just install this command line interface, which is Create React App. You run something to start the project, and then you just run your app by changing into the directory that was created, and then your new app is going to pop up in the browser. And once the new app pops up in the browser, you'll also be able to open up an app, make changes, and you're off to the races. So what about mobile? So, you know, the world is becoming increasingly mobile. As you saw in the previous talks, that in a lot of countries, including Kenya, everything is mobile first. And people are using their mobile devices every day, as much as, say, 6 hours in Nigeria. But, you know, there are a lot of challenges, as any of you who are building mobile apps find, with if you want to build a mobile app. So challenge number one is, like, especially if anybody here who does like iOS or Android coding? No? Yeah, so whenever you make a change, you have to press a button, let it compile, wait for the emulator to start up, and it just takes a little bit of time. You need to build and install in every change you make, and that's one challenge. Another challenge is that you typically have to use different sets of skills. So if you're developing, say, an Android app, and then next you're developing an iOS app, is Windows Phone still a thing? If you are, then there's another thing that you need. No? Okay, I won't mention it. So, but these are some of the things, and when you're developing it, you typically want to do that because you want to write in things that are very native to that, common to that platform. And you typically have to now kind of context switch and learn things in a different language. That's the second challenge. I already talked about the challenges around developing using imperative APIs, and where declarative is a little easier to learn. And there's a fourth challenge, is that if you're a company and you want to go there and be relevant, because this is a mobile-first world, you need to have actually a mobile app, and you want your mobile app to look good, and there's a lot of things that you need to think about in terms of the user experience, and in terms of what you want to do in terms of like the developer, how fast can they work and build these apps. So some of the ways that people actually solve this is that if they want an app in the App Store or they want something in a Google Play, what they'll do is they'll probably build a mobile website, and then they'll kind of have a wrapper around it, a UI web view or something, so that they're still writing code that's an HTML mobile app, but they're wrapping it so that it can show up in a native. But that just doesn't feel that right, because typically you know that something is not native when you're using it, when they've built it. And some people will just create a mobile website and leave it at that. But there are things that you can do with just a mobile site. There's some APIs that you can get to if you're building it that way. So these are things that you need to think about. So there are like two basic options. There's a user experience where you want to actually developing things using native ways, and then there's the other experience where you want to develop things really fast and get features out fast, and that you can typically only do if you're creating like a mobile app. So these are the things that we were grappling with at Facebook, and we faced these questions, and then we decided, instead of trying to do one or the other, why not we just do both? And we couldn't continue to make this choice over and again. And so that's where React Native came in. So it actually offers the flexibility and the speed of developing like in a web-like experience, but the performance and the user experience are native. So React Native, as I said, is a framework for building native apps using React. So if we were to look at an example to see React Native in action, this is a simple component. It's a toggle component that switches, goes toggle on or toggle off. And what's displayed, it just depends on the internal components. And if you look at the code, you'll see that it's basically the handle press event is changing the state, and it's changing the text from on to off. And that's what your React Native component looks like. If you've seen the code I showed before, it's very similar for React Native. So React Native obviously solves a lot of the challenges that we talked about, not having to build and install on every change. You're just learning things in React and then be able to use it on React Native. In addition, there's no imperative APIs. It's all declarative, as you saw in the example. And you're not using mobile alternatives. You're not wrapping things in web views. Everything is actually native. And I want to specify that there is no web view. So when you're writing this code, actually what's running on your app, whether it's iOS, you're using the native UI kit views. And if you're on Android, you're using what's native on Android, whether it's the frame layout or image view. So how this is happening is that React Native is shipping with a JavaScript executor under the hood. So the code that you write is bundled in one file, and then it's running when your app is running. So there's a bridge that maps the JavaScript calls to the native calls and vice versa. And the calls are serialized across the bridge, and they're batched for performance reasons. And things are run off the main thread so they don't mess with the performance. And in terms of Facebook, the very first app that was built with React Native from the ground up, everything was the Facebook Ads Manager. And it's a way that folks could actually, through mobile, just run ads really quickly and easy. It also uses Relay and GraphQL. These are other open source projects that Facebook has that work with data. And so the engineers who built this, they were not iOS engineers or Android engineers. These were ads manager engineers who knew how to use JavaScript. And kind of also another shout out, we've got two engineers in the back, Patrick and Aubrey, who worked on the ads manager app. So thank you guys. So I'm going to walk through a few key React Native features to give you a feel for how it is, how it feels like to work with React Native. So here we have a screen. This is a screen from the Facebook Ads Manager app. And assume that you're a developer and you want to make changes in here. You have something like hot reload. So you can go ahead and make changes and say, make something a little bigger. And hot reload will just let you very quickly see your changes. And let's say you did something wrong, like you misspelled it, and then you've got something called a red box, which is going to pop up right away and show you exactly what you did wrong. If you go ahead and sort of fix the typo, so you like that? Yeah. Pardon? You don't like the red box, do you? No, you don't like it. But it's kind of like immediate feedback. So then after that, you can fix the typo, and then it'll kind of go away real quickly. And the other thing that I really like, if you want to, you can inspect the elements. Let's say you're doing some styling. You can go in there, and this is available on both platforms. Now, when you think about the Ads Manager, I said that we worked on iOS and on Android. So what are some of the considerations that were done? So let's walk through a few of this. So let's look at this particular view and look at the list items that you're going to see them. There's some basic functionality in each of these list items. There's content, there's some text. In the iOS, you see that you probably want an arrow. That's the one on your right-hand side. But on Android, you want this kind of like effect, this ripple effect. So how would you do this? So let's start with the iOS code that was built first. So this is a React component, a native component. It's wrapped in something called a touchable highlight that lets you actually do these touchable events. And as you see, there's something in there towards the bottom called chevron that's responsible for showing the actual arrow that you see on iOS. So now Android comes in the picture. How would we actually get that going, because we want it out for Android? Well, with React, you've got something called platform, a platform module, and you can check which platform module is in there. So now we've added code in there that says if it's iOS, I want to show the chevron, otherwise I don't want to show anything. But we also want to see how do we handle the ripple effect. So with the ripple effect, you could possibly do something where you refactor out the part that has the touchable highlight, because on Android, if you want that ripple effect, you'll use something else called like touchable native feedback. And so if we refactor it a little bit more, then we actually now check if the platform is Android, then we use touchable native feedback and we put the content in there. Otherwise, if it was iOS, we do something different. And this is all well and good, but if you have to do this over and over and over again, it can get a bit tiring. So the other thing that React Native gives you is that you can actually have sort of two implementations of a component. So what we're going to do here in this example is we're sort of like refactoring out the touchable component. And if you have something and you just have like an extension in the file like ios.js or android.js, and then put what you want in those particular platforms in there, then you see that in the iOS case, you have the chevron and you're using touchable highlight. In the Android case, you don't have a chevron and you're using touchable native feedback. And under the hood, React is going to take care of when you call this new component called touchable here, it's actually going to bring in the right component. So these are some of the things that were done in the Ads Manager app to get the cross-platform work going. When the app was launched, about 85% of the code base was shared between platforms. So, basically 15% of the lines of code were related to having these different platform components. And, after about today, I think about 88% of the code is shared. Now, if we had to write this natively, just think about it, we wouldn't be able to share that much code. We'd probably have to write, at least for the UI, basically the Objective-C, and then for the Android, we'd have to write Java. And so this is the way we've been able to share a lot of the React Native code. Another thing that is pretty cool about React Native in terms of declarative is just how you do the layout. So we can simplify layout a lot. Instead of manually calculating layouts using different things, you can actually use something which is like for Flexbox layout in React Native. So for example, you can say you can specify how you want things laid in the primary way. So you can sort of have your content either in a row-based or in a column-based. And so you can also say that if it's row-based or column-based, I also want to specify how things flow along the main axis or the cross-axis. So justify content just tells you how things going to flow around the main axis. Either it's all bundled in the start, or it's in the center, it's at the end. And then you also can specify how things align on the cross-axis. Do everything start at the top, in the middle, or at the bottom? And using these two things, there's a lot of things that you can do to handle complex layout. As an example here, this is just showing a little movie row, and you see that if you look at the code, it's like when you're doing the layout, you're just working with JavaScript objects. So in this case, the style here is a row, the flex direction is in a row, and the items are lined on the center, and there's some extra things you can do with padding and with background color. So that's how you can do layout in React Native. So let's talk about performance. So when you talk about performance in layout, React Native is built with multi-threading in mind. So anyone who's done native development that you have to actually think about not blocking the main thread, because you want to make sure that that's available for anything that's related to UI. Otherwise, your app is just not going to feel good when you're doing things like scrolling. So a lot of mobile devices these days have multiple cores. Some Android phones even have shipping with like 8 cores in them. And React Native makes use of this. So what it does is that when you're doing anything related to touch events, it's using the main thread, which makes sense. Anything related to layout, it's doing on a separate thread, which is for Flexbox. And then for the calls, the JavaScript calls that are going back and forth, it's using another thread, the JavaScript thread. And this all ensures that as your app is working, that it's not freezing, it's not dropping frames, and it's performant. There's ongoing work related to performance that's always going to make React Native even more and more performant. And for anybody else who's actually working on an app, you may be working on an existing code base and you want to bring React Native into this. And you can actually do this. It's not an all or nothing approach when it comes to React Native. So the way you would do it is that if you have a native application and you want to bring React Native into it, just think of the React Native code as a particular view. So in Android, there's a JavaScript executor. That's where you're writing your React Native code. And then you would just instantiate a React Native view. And in the React Native view is where all the code would run. And you can have multiple views that are doing like React Native code in there. And once you get things up and running, so now you have your native app and React Native kind of serving some of the pieces in there. Just kind of like a lot of people who know about React or React Native, especially know that the motto that we say is don't really talk about you want to write things once and then run it across all the different platforms. In React Native land, you're sort of learning things in the React way, and then you're just doing it in many different ways. So it's just basically you're going to learn it once the React way and then apply it to all of the different platforms that are available. I know this has been a huge boon and a win for us at Facebook because it means that you don't have to learn a new platform if you're writing React Native code. And in fact, React Native, which was open sourced in 2015, They've got iOS and Android support, and the community has other support for other languages. Just to give you a sense of how we use React Native, so the Ads Manager app, as I said before, was built from the ground up with React Native. Facebook app obviously was native from the get-go, but there's some parts in that that have React Native in it. So that's an example of where we have incremental implementation. And the same goes for Instagram. There are some screens in Instagram that are React Native. Now, the community that's formed around React Native and React Native is amazing. So in React Native case, they have about over 1,400 contributors. And these are folks who are making the framework even better. And I hope that one day I'll see some of you who are also contributing to React Native as we continue to use it. There are contributors from external community as well as internal contributors. And just to quickly show you how you could actually get started with React Native, there are actually two ways. If you're a little bit doing things a little bit more heavyweight where you actually have to integrate a lot of native code, then what you'll typically do, you probably have an Android or an iOS environment all set up. You install the CLI for React Native. Once you've installed the CLI, then you can basically create your starter app, and then you're off to the races. You can just start it up and make changes to the various files. The other way that you can do it, this was open sourced earlier this year, is there's a Create React Native App project. And in this case, you don't need an Android Studio, Xcode, whatever set up. All you do is you just install the CLI. And once you install the CLI, you create your project, and then you can have it running. And it makes use of other projects where you can actually you've got like a QR code, and through the QR code, you can actually have it running instantaneously and make changes. And you typically do that when you're not going to be doing a lot of heavy interaction with native codes, where you need to actually write a lot of iOS or Android code. And again, once you've got everything running, whether you're using it the easy way or the hard way, you can just have your app, start making changes, and get that great developer experience. React and React Native are two of our most popular open source projects, but we've shared a lot more projects with the community, in fact, hundreds of them. These are just a sampling of some of them that are used to build power Facebook, whether it's the apps or services. Some of you may recognize some of them, stuff that we use to power our data. We've got things that relate to help you debug, like Redux, Flow, Static. I mean, there's a lot of projects out there. I'm not going to go into all of them, but if you are curious, you can actually go to code.facebook.com/projects and read up more on what we've open sourced and shared across the board. So hopefully this gave you a little bit more insight on why and how we built React and React Native. And there's a lot more to learn. Just visit all the project websites, interact with the community, interact with developer circles, and kind of get to know how you can use React and React Native. My hope is that you will actually use this to help you build your apps in the future. I'll be available afterwards at the booth if you have any questions about anything, or you have apps and you're using it and you have questions. So thank you so much, and I'll turn it over to Emeka.
Wow. It's been